The following program is a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
My name's Hanania, and I'm here with my buddy Aaron Freeman.
I'm his buddy.
This is 30 Minutes, and we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. Comedy, humor, the show we do, it's Andy Freeman, Holy Land Humor, a history of Aaron Freeman.
This is just going to be so much information, so much entertainment. It is difficult to contain it in one video
This will
cassette.
be like part one of maybe a whole volume.
I'm telling you.
Encyclopedia Britannica of Aaron Freeman from
War
A to
and
Z.
Peace. That's it.
A to
exactly
Z.
right.
Now, let me first say we're in Aaron Freeman's, backyard of his house in Highland Park.
That's true. That's
Beautiful place. Highland Park is a big Jewish American community, isn't it?
It is a large percentage of Hebes.
Do they know you're here, or you kind of sneak in?
Well, there's no problem. I mean, there's plenty of Negroes here. Most of us are working. But no,
you were telling me earlier that they're not really observant, or
well, I mean, as I say, one of the great ironies of my life is that living here in Highland Park, for years I had to explain to my children why we did not celebrate Christmas, but next door the Rosenbergs did. So it was a really, so it's not like, this is not to be mistaken for West Rogers Park in Chicago, down there in the hood.
in the hood. And of course, when we say observant Jewish and observant with their eyes open, they may not know exactly who you are until they see you sometime.
Well, actually, I'm part of the neighborhood watch, and we're checking out, making sure that no Arabs can come in.
Oh, how did I get it? Well, they think I'm Puerto Rican here to clean the house.
No, I'm here just
No problem.
I'm here to keep you contained.
I'm an illegal alien. They'll put up with me, but not a Palestinian terrorist.
It's
Well,
true.
let's start out by talking about who is Aaron Freeman.
Oh, well, let's find
Who is
this
Aaron
guy?
Freeman? Who are you? Where were you born?
I was born in Kankakee, Illinois.
Down south.
The
south.
The south, yeah, that's true. About 60 miles south of Chicago at St. Mary's Hospital. Grew up in Pembroke, Illinois. In fact, I am the most famous person ever to come from Pembroke, Illinois.
I've never heard of Pembroke.
See there?
Sounds like a pen and paper company, though, isn't it? Or
It's a little tiny community that was developed through a farmer in Kankakee County wanted to attract people who, as a boony suburb, a far distant suburb for Negroes who lived in a city.
Isn't that what the whole point of Peatone Airport is supposed to be, too?
Well, that's true, and that
Same
is
concept.
That was the idea. That was the idea. And he had access to a bunch of school buses, and he would ferry people from between Pembroke and the jobs in the city. Like my grandmother worked worked on the North Shore, in fact.
Really?
She lived south. It was a 2-hour drive south, but she worked in Skokie as a cleaning lady.
Wow.
And so they had big school buses that would ferry people back and forth.
And of course, it was an African-American community,
Still is.
African-American settlement, still is.
Whole Negroes.
Now, obviously you have an interest in the Middle East. You would be sitting here with the Palestinian if it wasn't for the fact that, you have an interest in the Middle East and you happen to be Jewish. What is that
That's
all
true.
about?
Well, I mean, I think there are a lot of Jews.
Smart marketing, or?
Well, I think there are a lot of Jews who are interested in the Middle East. I mean,
think
call
so?
me crazy, but I think that's a topic that one or two of the Hebes are really kind of
think
interested
so?
in. I think so.
It's a
I
big
do.
topic, huh?
I do.
They really watch that stuff.
It really
All
is
right.
true. We pay a lot of attention.
So, and you're Jewish.
In fact, I am Jewish.
All right, prove it right on the camera. No, never mind.
What?
We'll skip that part.
No,
But
to really prove it, I would shoot you.
oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
It's a joke. It's a joke. We love Palestinians.
And we're going to talk about the edginess of the humor that that we touch on. People think we're like making fun of violence and stuff, but we're not. But we'll get into that later. But why did you become Jewish?
I became a Jew for the food.
You converted, I should say,
That's
right?
right. I converted for the food.
For the food.
Certainly not for the wine.
I don't understand why black people must not have had very good food if you converted for the Jewish food. Okay.
Well,
My wife complains about it all the time.
you know, you obviously haven't had any injera.
Injera.
Injera is what the Ethiopian Jews eat.
Is it similar?
It's
It's
a wonderful
is it
bread.
lentil beans with rice?
No, it's a bread. It's a kind of a spongy sourdough bread that the
Oh.
Ethiopian Jews eat. It's a wonderful,
Is it
wonderful
African American food?
stuff. No, it's the Jewish food. It's what the Ethiopian Jews
The
eat.
Jewish food. It's Ethiopian. I've never heard of it. Is there?
You don't really hang with the. You, know,
Nah,
you got to expand your Jewish context,
There
my
is
brother.
there is a Jewish synagogue on the southwest side of Chicago that used to be Jewish that I thought was going to be bought up by the Arabs, like all little stores, but it was bought up by Ethiopian Jews, and I think they have a small congregation
I
at
think
63rd and Kedzie.
They're African American Jews. They're the Ethiopian Hebrew congregation, but the actual
Ah.
members are in fact African Americans, and they are. And it was bought by Jews. Just as you
But you're not
imagine.
Ethiopian, or are you? You're not, are you?
I'm not nearly attractive enough. Ethiopians are all really beautiful. If you
Really?
remember, oh yeah, don't you remember that Moses' wife was a Cushite?
Which one? How many wives did he? He had a lot,
He
didn't
had
he?
two. He had two. And his Zipporah was Ethiopian, was a Cushite, and it was a big problem. As a matter of fact, this is true. In the the Jews are the world's most obsessive compulsive book club.
Right. Oh
They
yeah.
read the same books all the time. And in the story, Moses' his sister Miriam, and his brother Aaron were complaining because he'd married this black woman, and God punished Miriam by turning her white.
Ah.
She only had to
And
be
then,
white.
and then we used her name Mary for the white Christian religion.
Well, I'm not quite sure if that's
How
the
that
direct,
happened?
I'm not quite sure if that's the
Everything
direct
originated from somewhere around Moses and Abraham and the Jewish religion, some way.
one. I thought it was Highland Park.
Well,
I'm
we get into
sorry,
the roots
not everything.
of the Jewish. I mean, all Arabs were the victims of
All Arab, the
of a
father,
Jewish guy that wanted to have a few wives. You know that.
I thought that the origin of Arab culture was 7-Eleven.
No, that's the holiday.
That's a joke.
That's a high
I'm
holiday.
Just kidding.
That's
I
a high
don't mean
holiday.
It's
But
a high
it's
holiday.
not-
7-Eleven.
It's not part of our
I see.
religion. We do go there once a week to worship and, just to kind of have fun. And, of course, the whole point of 7-Eleven is to sell Slurpees to the white people because
Lord
what's the only
knows.
thing that comes out of Slurpee? Brain freeze. That's why you never find any of that in the Middle East.
So
They don't have
that's
7-Eleven,
what happened to Bush.
Absolutely.
That's
You've been eating
what
too many
happened.
Slurpees.
Oh, by the way,
Yes.
I didn't tell you. Do you know who Professor Irwin Corey is?
Sounds familiar.
He is a very funny 92-year-old comic who my favorite line by him is, remember, it's Bush who's crazy, it's Saddam who's sane. Professor Irwin Corey.
Now, he
one
got to be
funny-
Lebanese.
Irwin Corey?
Corey, it's a Lebanese. Corey's a very popular
He's
Lebanese
Jewish,
name.
actually. I don't know. He might be Lebanese as well, but his name he is Jewish.
So Aaron Freeman
Yes.
comes to this country to seek freedom, lands in Pembroke, the Freeman family. You obviously were smart, like me, being Palestinian, marrying a Jewish wife.
There
It
you
really
go,
kind of
there
helps.
you go, there you
Not very
go.
smart of my wife, but very smart of me. But obviously, you changed your name from Kunta Kinte to Freeman, obviously, to get ahead in the world.
That's, of course.
Is Freeman the original name, family name?
Of course not.
Okay.
Of course
Well,
not.
free man.
Well, that's the deal. I mean, when the Africans were brought to America, their names were lost.
But I mean, Freeman would have been the one that was given to you or applied to your family.
The truth is, they were among the slaves, there were different classes.
Okay.
Some were the skilled craftsmen. Many
Okay.
of the Africans, many of the skilled craftsmen never even became slaves. They just had their own businesses because if you needed a blacksmith, you had to
Get a real blacksmith,
you
not
had-
just a fake one. Go ahead.
Well, but if you needed a smith, yeah, they were able to buy their own freedom, and so they were those people. Then there were the domestic servants, people who were charming and could hang around the house and speak well to the white people and get. Who could
And
be
they wear the
trusted.
capri pants.
I didn't notice that, but I believe that. And then there were the field hands, the ones who had no particular skills, who were bought and sold by the dozen, and that was us. And the story in our family is that for the first 2 generations, no one in our family even had names.
Really?
We just answered when somebody called out, "One of y'all, come on in."
Really?
And we just did. And so, but then, of course, and after emancipation, my family having no skills and even less hope, stayed on the plantation where we had been slaves, and we did what we had been bred to do: grew and picked cotton as
Wow.
sharecroppers. But of course, we got to pick names, and Freeman was the best name anybody could think of.
Are you able to trace your ancestry back at all
Well,
to, Dubai or Africa
No.
or the Arab world?
No, as I said.
Were you slaves that were stolen from the Arabs?
I
'Cause
like
that's
to-
what I heard. I wasn't sure.
I like to think that
We came up with a good plan that was taken from us again by the Eastern Europeans.
I like to think that we were slavers. I like to think that back in
It's a
Ghana.
profession.
I was back in Ghana. I like to think that we were. I'm descended from royalty and all of that. I seriously doubt it.
No, okay. But can you trace your
no.
ancestry? You can't.
As I said, we didn't even have names. The story in our family is for the first couple generations, so there's no.
So there's not. It's not.
I mean,
so you come.
Well,
here.
although there is that whole business with DNA, checking the DNA on the inside of your cheek.
Okay.
So it is possible, but we don't do it.
And that was an offshoot of the Chicago Police Department plan to kind of deal with bring rights to the South Side, right? They wanted to bring a DNA survey. Anyway,
Oh.
go ahead. We'll move on.
But yeah.
No, but why did you convert? You did convert, correct?
Yes, I did.
Why did you do that?
Because, well, first of all, Judaism is the most famous African export of all time. As you probably, I'm sure you know, that the Torah
Right.
was given to freed African slaves.
It's true.
That Moses...
Egypt was in Africa.
It still is, last I checked.
Unless
they moved.
Not everybody. It's funny how they don't always point that out, but that's
understand,
true.
I
King
understand.
Tut looked like a slave owner who was probably oppressing African
But
Americans
if
in
you look,
Egypt.
actually, if you, well, I don't think there were that many African Americans in ancient Egypt. I don't think there was an American. But that's beside the point. If you look at the hieroglyphs from ancient Egypt over a period of time, you'll see everybody ruled Egypt. Of every color, men, women, black, brown, white. Everybody ruled Egypt. I mean, again, if you're down at the Oriental Institute at the University of Chicago,
I've been
you
there.
could just, you've seen it. The hieroglyphs, there's every color.
They
of
actually
king.
had me on a display there once back in the 70s. There were only a few Arabs in those cities.
Ah.
Yeah, so I've been there a couple times.
Yeah. So that there was Judaism is again the most famous African export. Moses was African. His parents were Africans.
Is everybody
grandparents
now?
were
Is this
Africans.
considered a mainstream Jewish approach?
Absolutely.
Right, then you would know. Because you're mainstream Jewish. That's why when I said, hey, I'm Palestinian, I'm looking for a mainstream Jew to do a comedy act with, I said, what's more mainstream than Aaron Freeman?
Well, I'll tell you something else that'll surprise you. That every religious Jew, every rabbi will tell you it's true. That the first suicide terrorist was Jewish. The first suicide terrorist was Samson.
That's true.
He was the first guy to pray to God. His last prayer was, God, let me die with the Philistines.
But it was a justified form of suicide bombing, just as it is in Beirut and Lebanon today, right? You were provoked to it. What were the causes of Samson doing what he's doing?
Samson killed.
Let's not get into that with the Arabs.
Well, I'm just
Don't
saying.
mix these
just-
lessons.
And it's not, neither here nor there. It's just one of those little
That's true.
interesting, stories.
It took the Arabs a long time, 10 years of suicide bombings, to finally recognize that point and use it in an argument against Israel. But they never jump on it. It was a great point. I wish they, would have used that.
But now
they
the
never
age
did.
of suicide bombing is pretty much certainly over in Israel. And
I mean, it's
Palestine.
not rocket science, is it? Technically,
Gee,
it is.
Gosh,
Now,
I guess these days would be.
All right,
it is rocket science.
We're going to talk about the whole mixing of humor and serious topics in a minute, but let's finish with you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So no, you're doing all right. You converted.
I did.
Why did you convert? Because of this feeling.
I converted because I wanted to confuse Louis Farrakhan.
It's good. Yeah.
My brother, my enemy. My brother, my enemy. Ah!
Is he confused? Has he ever called you up and ever asked you, what are you doing?
Louis Farrakhan, actually, his grandfather was Jewish.
Really?
That's what he says.
Why is it always like that with these people?
I think, there's been so much mushing around among these human beings. It's hard to find pure anybody.
It's just basically people having fun. You're a little carried away, you kind of lose it, and then, who cares?
What is it? There are things that happen between a man and a woman in the dark that make all other things seem insignificant.
It should.
So I think, boys and girls, they just get together and they do all kinds of things. I'm certain there are no pure Negroes.
Now,
I've never met one.
He's never invited you to perform at the Slam restaurants or anything, has he?
No, but I have been to the Slam restaurant.
It's a nice place.
It's a very nice restaurant.
I've been there for Arab meetings mainly, but I haven't really been invited on a social occasion.
I was one of my. I took one of my Jewish friends down.
You mean, like, of course, when you say you took somebody down in
To
a
the
Palestinian
I
sense,
mean, to the
it
restaurant.
has a whole different connotation. It's like baby boomer has a whole different meaning here.
But again,
Three
that's
sheets
all
to the
over.
wind, all that stuff. And
It's
it's all
true.
different words and everything.
But the Palestinians I see are not that. So we're still talking about me.
Well,
Yes, I
you've been
became a Jew.
accepted. You've been accepted by the Jewish community. I mean, pretty
so
much.
far as I know. I mean, certainly,
No, but-
as far as I mean, I'm.
Is it because they're too busy with us to kind of focus
No,
on you,
no.
or you've been? I mean, the Jewish community is pretty good.
I mean, there's certainly a debate in the Jewish community as to who's a Jew, who's not a Jew.
And my wife marries a Palestinian. That's going to cause some acceptance issues, but that's normal in any community,
Yeah,
obviously.
but I mean, I think I'm certain that.
So a rabbi picks up the phone and says, "Hey, Aaron Freeman, we'd love to have a nice, wholesome Jewish comedian come and perform." And then what happens when you actually get up there on stage?
Well, generally speaking, I think that people who a large percentage of the people who call me to do a show, who visit AaronFreeman.com, which is a lot of people a lot of the jobs I get.
AaronFreeman.com.
They visit AaronFreeman.com and they see what I look like, so it's not a shock.
So it's not a shock.
It's not a stunning shock.
It's not just a concern about, honey, call the guy to fix the computer, the color's off again.
Not as far
Not
as
at all. Okay.
Not that you.
I know when they come to Hanania.com, they know exactly why they're there, to get the reward from the FBI and to try and track me down. It is not about booking me for comedy. Now, I latched on to you because I figured, okay, the only way a Palestinian is going to be successful in this country is by partnering up with a Jewish comedian. But we're doing pretty good. Now, you've been doing comedy. What got you into comedy?
I didn't want to work.
The whole...
I just could not bear the idea of getting a job. It would just seem it was anathema to me.
For me, it was I couldn't get a job after September 11th. So it's funny how Jews and Arabs share so much in a different way.
I understand.
I wish we could share the land a little bit more, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like we're at that point
Well,
yet.
it's possible. I mean, remember
so?
back in 1994 when Yitzhak Rabin, and Bill Clinton, and Yasser Arafat, those guys actually managed to. There were.
That was at the gay games at Camp David, where they were kind of doing the ass pat.
But even before that, there was the Oslo Accords, which brought us joint Israeli-Palestinian patrols. It brought us. My favorite memory was back in '94 when little old Israeli grandmothers were going by the busloads into Jericho to play the slots.
Oh yeah.
So given when the Palestinians, in my experience, and I think in all of our experience, when the Palestinians thought they could cut a good deal, a deal that made sense to them, they have struck me. They have clearly that back then they were very cooperative and very mellow and wanted very much to get along.
I went to Jericho many times. I mean, I love it. It's the lowest point on earth. They actually have wild camels roaming, and one of the most popular slot machines at the Jericho Casino is the Squeal of Fortune. It's really good. It's really something good. I love playing that. Yeah!
Now, can any of your relatives do that uvulating thing?
Usually when I'm stuck in traffic, I roll the window down, stick my head out, scare the crap out of people for miles. It just opens up the road right through. Really good. I feel like Bashar al-Assad in Syria. Get the peasants out of the way. I'm just going to walk down the street. It's open for me. All right. So you've been doing comedy. When did you first get into comedy?
At college. I was studying at NYU, studying theater.
Rather than flunking out. Because in my case, it was I flunked out, went into the Air Force. But you went right into comedy.
Well,
I didn't think of that happening.
Well, I discovered when I was 18 that if I could make a room full of strangers laugh, I could get $50.
And it was less likely that they'd lynch you or beat the crap out of you. What college did you go to?
Well, I went to NYU, but the likelihood of lynching depended more on what I said than what I. I must tell you that I dropped out of college in my sophomore year, and I went to form and live in London. And in Europe, as I'm sure you know, in Europe they hate you because you are an American.
Right.
Long before they notice your skin color.
That's true.
I find that so refreshing.
Yeah, it's like an alternative.
It's a wonderful kind of thing. They
Shut
don't
up.
even notice. They just carry you an American, and it's just. And then we get to talk about how much we despise Bush. And no, but we all agree. The whole world is together
It's
and
one of those
united.
cultural idiosyncrasies that we kind of take for granted sometimes when
It's
we go
true.
there.
It's true. It's true.
So, and you studied at Second City, right?
I worked at Second City.
And you were very successful. I think I
Did a lot of
can't
shows at
remember
Second
where
City.
we first met, but I was a reporter, and I clearly remember the great skit, the improv show that you put together about council wars.
Council Wars, that was after Second City, yes. But Harold Washington was mayor of Chicago, and there were the great battles between him and Edward Doliak and Ed Burke and his.
Don't you miss that conflict? Isn't it kind of depressing?
I don't miss that at all. What's going on now in Chicago and Cook County is an amazing
Is there
thing.
something going on?
Well, our county board president has had a massive stroke.
What was his name? Ariel Sharon, right?
That's exactly right, Ariel Sharon.
That's your joke. I stole it. I shouldn't have done that. That's not good, but
It's okay. It's
you use that in a show.
It's your show. You get to do that. But now, John Stroger, he's had a stroke, and he's in a very weird kind of political limbo because he is too dead to do his job as county board president.
but not dead. Go ahead.
You can take him. He'd like
No,
to have
no,
him
no,
do it.
no. No, this is a bad habit of comedians. We shouldn't do that. Go ahead.
But he's not quite dead enough to vote. That's the
But
Chicago way.
he
Yes.
does have enough energy to at least make 3 attempts at signing a letter.
Well, and also let us say that even though he had a stroke with massive brain damage, he was still smart enough not to be treated at John Stroger Hospital.
That would happen.
He was not. Nobody was that sick.
No, don't send me there.
Not
please.
there,
Not
not
there.
Stroger.
Name the place after me, but I ain't going
I'm
there.
not going there.
Don't throw
Nobody-
me in that briar patch.
Nobody's family would let him do it.
So you have this history of political humor and
I do.
satire.
I do.
But Council Wars was not. I think we could probably agree it's not like the Middle East. It wasn't a violent Council War.
No.
The Middle East is much more violence. How does the humor go over with audiences when you deal with the Middle East conflict?
Well, as you know, it's very much, ask me what makes me a great Polish comedian.
What makes you
Timing.
great?
So the timing, forgive me, I just happen to hear the joke about Polish comedians by many people. But it very much depends on what's going on. There are times that when many audiences.
By the way, I just want to interrupt them. We're in Highland Park. They're building the Highland Park version of the wall.
Right.
Right around here to keep people like me out, so I was able to get
Exactly.
through. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call it a wall.
You
It's a
blasted a
fence.
hole in the wall.
It's a fence. It's a fence.
Security barrier.
It's a security barrier.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the noise in the background that you're hearing is Highland Park building this beautiful fence
That's right.
around their community.
Designed in London.
And I interrupted you, but I didn't mean to do that.
I forgot what I was going to say.
You were talking about. We probably have to play the tape though, because it was something funny
Well, but anyway.
about why there's the difference of humor in nonviolent and difference of humor in violence.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Violence
it depends, but
scenario.
there's sometimes it depends depending on what's happening in the news.
Right.
Some things are more or less funny. For example, I do make a joke about that John Stroger is our Ariel Sharon.
Right.
Now you couldn't have made that the week Stroger had his stroke,
Right.
and you probably couldn't have made it. We could have made it, but people would not have laughed
Right.
in the month right after Ariel Sharon had his.
Right.
So,
But
timing is,
there was good laughter at the.
Oh, yeah.
We were at C.J. Arthur's in
That's right.
Wilmette, and the audience loved.
Oh
it.
yeah, no. In these days, one can't do it, but I am just saying it does.
Well,
so it
humor
does require-
isn't inherently isn't disrespectful. I mean, just because
No.
we make a joke of a situation, doesn't that kind of remind people to calm down? Why do we have to take everything so serious?
Well, my
Or
favorite.
is that the great PR?
Well, my favorite line is that comedy is a way of looking at life that makes happy endings seem inevitable.
That's good. Oh man.
And I mean,
feel good. All right, just
well,
hear
no,
that.
but you laugh when the guy
good.
falls on the banana peel because you know he'll be okay. He's just lost his
Right.
dignity.
Right.
But he hasn't, it's not like Dr. Atkins and he cracks his skull open.
Right.
That's not funny. But the guy who loses his dignity.
Right, you don't make a joke about me and then take an axe and club me over
Right.
the head. We walk off stage friendly and
That's right.
we do the comedy.
And then fight later. But
Right, yeah.
of course.
Off camera.
Of course, of course. But yeah, so that comedy, I think that ultimately that is the thing, and there's some things that people are just not ready for. At some point people are not ready for laughter, and you have to. What they say, comedy is tragedy plus time.
And humor, there's also the principle that if a Jew and an Arab, can actually get on stage and do comedy, it's a good thing, right? We don't see
As
too
your
many
motto-
Palestinians and
What is your
Jews.
motto?
If we can laugh together, we can live together.
If we can laugh together, we can live
It's
together.
unproven, but it's a great theory.
I have never heard of any Israeli comedian attacking a Palestinian comedian.
They just won't appear on stage with me.
That's not true.
Some will.
Yes,
Some will. I mean, because you know what? It's okay to have an Arab who knows his place, but of course, when I express an opinion,
that is
totally puts me out of the marketplace.
This is not true.
I don't know any opinions, Massa.
This is not
I hear
true.
a lot of Palestinians saying that, today in the West Bank, as a Ramallah. Just that whole thing.
But there are a lot of Israelis who really want to get along with Palestinians, who really work hard to try to reach out to Arabs. There are Jewish groups who hire
right.
you.
There are on both sides.
Yes.
Palestinians and Israelis.
But you have been hired by a number of Jewish groups, and I know we've been hired together by Jewish groups.
Absolutely.
So there are a lot of people who
you have to get a Palestinian group to hire us, but
No,
we're working on
that's
it.
true.
It's a whole different...
We have worked for Muslim students, as you know.
Yes, we did. Actually, we're at several universities.
That's
Muslim
exactly right.
Student
Northwestern,
Association.
That's exactly right. So let us not say that our Islamic
That's true.
brothers
No.
and sisters,
No.
they care. They're down
Salam
there.
alaikum, my brother.
Alaikum
That's what
salam.
I always say.
That's right.
All right, well, we're down to like about 2 minutes, so I mean...
Well, let's take this last 2 minutes to see how much anger we can stir up in the world.
you think we can piss people off a little bit?
I would, but I do want to say that right now we're living through some very interesting times in the Middle East, and we're seeing the really astonishing success of the Israeli education program system.
That's tax-free education system.
Again,
It actually isn't tax-free. It's costing us about $5 billion a year, but
Well, I'm just saying that the Arabs have really benefited incredibly. A year ago, they were all, the Palestinians were blowing each other up in mindless suicide bombings, but now they're all rocket scientists. All
it's
of them are.
amazing.
It's an astonishing
We're still
thing.
upset because the Israelis won't give us our graduation certificates, but we're hopeful that things will come through.
I understand. But yeah, I'm very optimistic about the Middle East. I will say that because George Mitchell,
Despite all the problems.
absolutely, the Northern Ireland fight had gone on for longer than the Arab-Israeli fight. That was 62 years, and we're only in 58.
So we got 4 more years before we're ready to break a record.
Well, George Mitchell, the personal representative of the President of the United States, went there.
Lebanese, by the way.
He went there. He took him 2 years. He said he had 700 days of failure and 1 day of success. And
Is that good?
Well, all it
Is that
took
like
was,
something to brag about?
all it took was that 1 day.
For Bush, that might be.
All it took was that 1 day. And even at that, it took a phone call on Good Friday at midnight from the President of the United States.
And of course, the point of all the stuff that we're doing here is people shouldn't be afraid of ever seeing a Palestinian and a Jew together doing anything.
That's
We
true.
should be encouraging that.
That's true.
We shouldn't be looking at excuses why we shouldn't be bringing somebody or not bringing somebody. We need to open our minds. Humor is the best way to get people to kind of feel. It's a great way to meet, or get a date and
That's
get
right,
laid.
exactly
but
right,
It's a
right.
good way to get peace. That's what I want to know.
That's what we want to say. I've never heard of, you can't aim while you're laughing.
Good.
It's
Man, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's the new title of our show.
You
cannot aim
while you're laughing.
And with that, I got to end it. My guest has been Aaron Freeman, one of the great comedians from Chicago, African-American, Jewish.
Who, along with Sandy Shea and Ray Hanania, form Holy Land Humor.
And we try our best to give you respectful but funny,
Clean
humor to make people just stop and think, so that, of course, the Palestinians can win.
That's right. There you go.
All right, that's
There
the
you
whole
go. That's the subtext.
Oh, no, we weren't supposed to say that. Listen, thanks so much for joining me here at 30 Minutes. I'm Ray Hanania, again, thanking my guest, Aaron Freeman.
My pleasure. Thank you,
and
my
that's
brother.
a sincere handshake. That isn't just for the cameras.
That's true.
We'll talk to you again, and join us for our next show here at ArabAmericanTVOnline.com.